Hello, I'm late. I was doing some gardening and I used to take a shower before coming back in because I was all dirty. So today I wanted to talk about the D&D movie. I finally saw the D&D movie. I was in Tortuga this weekend and so I happened, the movie was playing, so I happened to watch it and I didn't like it. But that's not that doesn't say that much because I don't tend to like movie. I like the first Conan. I like David Lynch Dune. I like Excalibur, Only God Forgives, and then some Wes Anderson movie. Most Wes Anderson movie. But other than that, I don't really like movies, so I don't tend to watch many of them. But I did watch this one because, well, you know what? It's appropriate, I guess. It gave me a reason to talk about it on the channel. So maybe some people are gonna be interested in knowing what I think about it. And hello, Doodle Squatch. Nice seeing you. And you're right. It was very contemporary and very annoying. That's something like I already talked about it a bit because like the writer of the movie, they talked about how they would intentionally emasculate men. And the movie opened with Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez in prison, and Chris Pine is knitting while Michelle Rodriguez being the badass there. So already you got this feel there, and that comes a lot every time you see like a male female character. Almost every time when you see a male female character, yeah, the male like Michelle Rodriguez characters go back. I don't know, an old guy I think go back to see her ex husband or whatever, and he's this little like house husband and stuff like that, like affling, very emasculated, and it's pretty much every time like even like the other like character like the sorcerer that's with them is all lack of confidence and stuff like that, and then there's like this conman that is played by Grant that is being bussed around by this female sorcerer. So it's always like it's constantly this thing like with the man's not in charge. It's always like the woman in charge, stuff like that. It's very annoying to me. And there was also this thing, like I don't know if you've seen this clip, like you can watch this movie where they talk about all those current series and TV show where it's always like the racial representation of what you see in South Central LA or whatever, or downtown metropolitan Los Angeles, and that was like that in the movie as well. It's like diversity felt very forced. It's everywhere. It's the same kind of like racial demographic you could see in every major urban city now, and like the Chris Pine character had a black wife, and it's all like it's very in your face. If you're sensitive to that, you'll notice for sure. Another thing I found, the acting was really bad. Chris Pine and Rodriguez and Grant were all right. Well, Rodriguez, like she doesn't have that much range, but she was all right for that role. But the other character like was so bad, and the writing was very bad as well, so that didn't help. But like the druidess, the girl that played the druid, she's cute enough, but man, she cannot act. It's terrible. And yeah, I was talking about this the writing that was bad, and when they meet this druid chick, she go and say like and basically do a backstory dump and say fuck that, what the hell is that? And I guess some people could say, oh, that's thematic with D&D, with character coming with their backstory, but if you analyze it, if you look at that movie as a movie, don't do that. And it's the same thing with I guess like there's gonna be spoiler, but I don't care about those, and the movie is not very good anyway, so you're not missing out. But if you want to see the movie and you don't want it a bit spoiled, well, maybe it's time to go watch the movie and come back to watch this video later if you want. But they're like the main bad guy, like she's all this sorceress, like the Red Wizard of Tain, whatever, and she's all cold and no range of emotion, stuff like that, which doesn't get for a great performance. But then you also have like this paladin guy that is a black guy that that is also like this very like serious and doesn't joke and talk in a very flat tone and stuff like that, and say like, guys, you know that paladins are supposed to be charismatic, right? And it's like very boring. It's a very boring character. Don't write character like that, or like especially don't write two character like that in the movie. Especially like, and for the bad guy, that's one thing because like, oh, okay, she's kind of like an undead or whatever, so we don't really need to empathize with her. But this guy that's supposed to be a hero is just so annoying. Like it's and it doesn't fit with the pattern. And if you want to laugh at this guy that doesn't get sarcasm and is always, it takes everything very literal, you can do it. You know, they did it with Drax in Guardian of the Galaxy, and you could still like Drax. He was still like a likable character. But now, like, they make this paladin and try to make it look noble, but like distant and cold, and it just doesn't work. So very bad writing, very bad character, and the special effect, I found very hit and miss. Some of them were very nice. A lot of them was like dated as hell. And maybe I got like more of an eyes for that than maybe because I work in animation and in computer graphic for a long time. But yeah, I saw that and it was like very subpar in my opinion. The costume were pretty bad. It all looked very cheap. It all looked very like plasticky. Like I seen like cosplay costume that are nice, the nicer, LARP carpet are nicer. It really felt like it didn't show, like, didn't seem to pay respect to the setting. And same with the environment, stuff like that. Like it doesn't feel like lived in. It always feel like they're on a set, which I guess it's something because they're mostly in green room. You know what I mean? Like there's no real set there, but everything feel like very sterile. And which I guess for D&D can work because you got spell with like a prestidigitation. Oh, did you already see for $20 at Walmart? Huh? That I'm surprised. I know, like you can see it for free on is it Paramount Plus? One of those like streaming service. I don't have any streaming service because like I don't watch movie, but I know there's one of the streaming servers that got it for free as well, which is also, I guess, not a great sign. But in the future, better fantasy movie will have a hard time getting funding based on this one failing. Yeah, that's very true because like now, let's say every time like somebody's going to make a good fantasy movie, they're going to say, "Oh, the fantasy movie doesn't work. Look at this D&D movie." But like they always make those fantasy movie without any respect, like without like paying any respect to the material. It doesn't mean you have to take yourself seriously, but you have to take the material seriously if you want it to be that people can appreciate it. Good day, Flady. Good afternoon. Nice seeing you. And one thing also that really bothered me with that movie is there's this there was like a constant flow of like, oh, they get a problem, they get a solution. They get a problem, they get a solution. They get a problem, they get a solution. Like 12 times in the movie. It's like way too much. It goes like so fast. They always go from problem to solution, problem to solution. You never have time to dwell on something. It never seems to be a threat because like something arises, it is solved right away. Something else arrives, it is solved right away. You know, you never have this time to build tension, and you never have this time to let the tension be resolved. So that's again in the writing. It's like it's so frantic. You know, it's like movie always like go and go and go and go and go. And at some point you just say like, oh, whatever. And just say, oh, there's another problem. I guess in a second, by the time you finish the sentence, they already solved the problem. It's always like that. And also, like who was talking about that? I forgot who I was talking about, but somebody said, "Oh, it's kind of like in D&D. Like you get those problems, and you roll not 20." And I said, "Well, that's not how my games are personally." And I could see that happen. That sometimes you get those problems and then it gets solved right away. But like, if you make a movie, you cannot just make it like purely as a game. You're trying to tell a story. You need to have like some tension build up and resolve and stuff like that. That would be nice, seeing a miniseries based on like, and that's something I don't understand. Like, why? Like, they have all those stories that have been written, all this material, and they never like adapt that. They always try to make this their own thing. Keep on the Borderland being a module would be interesting to see as well, because it's not a pre-written story. It's not like doing grits or whatever, and that could be fun if they were do it like gritty, and they would do it with the right tone, and if they would just make it like a goofy thing, and it's like, oh, look at that, and something happened, I'm slipping on a banana peel, and then all of a sudden I'm falling into success. That would be annoying. And falling into success, that's also something that really annoyed me in that movie, because they go on that quest to find this MacGuffin, and the MacGuffin end up being almost irrelevant in the movie. They have like a big part of the movie is about the character finding that object, and then when the character being able to attune to the magic object, which is also something that in D&D, especially in D&D 5e, yeah, you have to attune to magic object, but there's no such thing as a check or a test. You just like spend some time with the object and then you attune. Now, like, oh, it was something that he had to overcome his self-doubt to be able to attune to, which could be interesting, but doesn't fit with the rules of the game. That could make it interesting to something to homebrew in D&D. Like, oh, you want to attune to an object, you have to make some kind of test, some kind of check. But anyway, they go on this big quest to find this magic object, and then there's this mini plot about, oh, will the character be able to attune to it, and then he fail, and then at some point the object do almost nothing, like it's irrelevant. The magic object that solve all the plot, almost of the story, is a magic object they randomly find. When Olga, the character of Michelle Rodriguez, go see her ex-husband, the ex-husband had this walking stick, and for some reason she take it with her, not knowing what it is, and then it's in her pack. And then at some point she like the sorcerer character make a trap that collapse a bridge that they need to cross. So that's a failure there. And then like the Olga character, Michelle Rodriguez character, say, oh, I have rope in my bag, and she start like taking stuff out of the bag, and then she take off this stick, and then the sorcerer character like recognize it, and then all of a sudden, oh, it's a wand that can create portal. And then this problem with the bridge collapse is solved there. But then this portal one that they just like randomly got like that, because like, oh, somehow the ex-husband of Olga had this, and for some reason she took it with her when she went on that adventure with those guys. There's no good reason given. And then, oh, it solved this bridge problem, and then it solved how to get into the vault, and then it solved this, and then it solved that, and then he always like keep coming back, and it's like that's it's like the item that solve almost all their problem. It's a random thing that they just happen to have, and that the sorcerer just happened to recognize. It's such poor writing, and it just like make this whole like quest for going to find this special helmet that they're looking for, helmet that can nullify the enchantment. It's like basically like an EMP for enchantment, temporarily like nullify all enchantment, and they use it at some point in the movie, and it does almost nothing, and it does is inconsistent, because like they have like sending stone that they use like walkie-talkie, and there's some joke made about that at some point when they test it, and then they're all together, and then there's like feedback loop building up. It's like, oh, look at that, it's a modern joke inserted in this fantasy movie. Like that's tiresome, they always do that, and at some point just like, whatever, man, just like let it go. Like try to take the material a bit seriously. Like we've seen it so much. This like kind of like oh, we're inserting like modern reference into those. But anyway, they use the helmet and they disable all the enchantment, and the range is not too clear. But right after they do that, they take out the sending stone and they start like saying, "Oh, it worked!" And it's like, wait, it didn't work on the sending stone. Why this is disenchantment hasn't been like rendered null, voided? So it just like this, and in the end, like also it solved this helmet, like it solves nothing because like oh, it did work to dissolve, like to disenchant what they were going after, but then it didn't matter. So it's just like this big quest that in the end, like this big part of the movie to get the subject, to attune to the subject that just doesn't matter in the end. Could have just been cut and the whole plot would have been changed. Or why not make this quest to find this magic item be about finding this one that can create the teleport, the portal? Because now you just like introduce like this thing that is almost irrelevant and create plot hole for no reason, for no good reason. And they made Elminster black too, so that's also always a bit annoying as well. So yeah, overall, and there's other thing that I found annoying, like oh they included the kids from the Dungeon Dragon cartoon in some maze that the character find themselves in with other people, and it's okay. That's a nice cameo and stuff like that. I got nothing against them doing that. What I found annoying is that they included them in two scenes, and that's something you do when you put an Easter egg like that. You don't want like rub it in the face too much. It's something that should be like subtle. You know what I mean? You put it in the scene and stuff like that, but then you see them and you see them like twice or thrice, and some may just become too much. And it's okay. We got it. We got it. We you put in that's cute. You put in like the kids from the D&D cartoon. You know? But if they just did it properly, just like you have them pass in the background and then like oh that's funny, okay, that's cute, you know. But yeah, it's just like too much, too in your face. All the good writers are getting old and passing away, to those Squatch says. And yeah, or I don't know, like it's like writing a good script's like the cheapest thing you can do, you know. Like you just need to but it's just like because they I don't know what's wrong with the writer nowadays. It's not that hard, you know. You just like there's formula and stuff like that, and they just try to. I don't know. I think it's because they hire people to write that hate the material, and they hire them because because they fit some kind of like criteria, like they can check the right checkbox, or because they know somebody. It's out of nepotism and stuff like that. But that would be like writing is so important, and it's treated like just an afterthought. And even now, like they don't leave enough time for the VFX guy to do their job and stuff like that. So that's why a lot of the VFX kind of sucks. They don't want to pay for that. It's almost like Hollywood is now just like a big. They're not trying to make good movie anymore. I don't know. There's something there. I think they should be investigated more. Like, are they trying to make a movie that waste money and shit like that? I don't know. Because what's the last good movie that came out? I still have not seen it, and I have no intention to. Basically, I hate those comedy kiddie film. Yeah, that's not what I'm not against like a movie with some humor, but it's just like tiresome. Just like I said, they can never take it seriously. They can never like give us something that people will like. Like the first Conan, you know, the first Conan movie, that's a great movie. And you think like people say, oh, it's just like a sword and sorcery movie. It's a great, much better movie than any kind of like, oh, movie about this fantasy barbarian has a right to be. But it's a philosophical movie, and it's a movie like, and the director of that movie took the material seriously and say, okay, what if we have this barbarian guy? What if he would go to those he got this backstory and stuff like that? and he gave us a character that was believable, like many characters that were believable, that in a world that had some consistency and stuff like that. It wasn't just and there's some humor in it, but it's not just about like little joke and little quip about like the modern world, stuff like that. But it's a movie that is like cleverly written. It's not like, it's not a movie like, well, I'd say it's not a movie that could change your life. It's a movie that couldn't, like, I saw it as a lad, and he had a big influence on me. The whole question of the Riddle of Steel. Would you like me to talk about that? I can talk about that a bit. Hey Victor, how you doing? Nice. Thank you for dropping by. Hollywood is pretty much dead, and exactly, the first Conan movie is cool, yeah. But I think the first Conan movie is much more than cool, because it's there's this thing about the Riddle of Steel, and when we look at the Tulsa Doom, and I guess I'm kind of done talking about the D&D movie. It's bad. I didn't like it. Don't take it to for cash, because I don't tend to like movie. If you like those Avenger movie and stuff like that, maybe you're gonna like it. But I'm not a big movie guy. Like, I like old kind of movie that they don't make anymore. Yeah, I think they went with cheap effect when portraying some of the background non-human NPC, mask over actors' head, masking the creature heads over sides. Yeah, that's and you could feel like, and there's a scene with some tabaxi too, and they're so bad, and it's like, oh, this paladin is saving like a tabaxi kitten, and that would be like that would have been something that would be worth investing in, because, like, man, people love cats. And then if you can make those damn cat cute, you're gonna melt the heart of million. Like, this little, like, oh, tabaxi kitten being saved from a fish that ate him. Man, like, that's you want to tug on people's heartstring. That's the way to do it. But just make it like so it doesn't look so trash. Yeah. Conan was a great D&D movie. Also, see Lady Hawk. I saw Lady Hawk quite a long time ago. I don't remember it too well. It didn't impress me as much. I quite like Dragon Slayer from that. The Dragon Slayer was a great movie. Yeah. Yeah, could have been a great. And also, if the Paladin wasn't such a pain to, like, every time he's on screen, it's like, oh man, can you get over it? And this, like, sword that shoot dagger. I hate those gimmicks. It's so fucking stupid. Like, oh, you got a sword, but then he can shoot the blade of the sword, and then he's left with a dagger. And it's like, come on, like, it's so dumb. Yeah, every movie is a Marvel movie. It's like they found a formula, and now they're trying to fit everything in there. But, like, I've never been into that kind of movie. Like, Marvel movie, I've seen some of the very first one, and I often watch movie when I'm on a plane as well. So sometimes I don't even get like the real version. I get like edited version for plane. But nowadays, the way they make movie as well, they always want to make them like what is it, PG-13, so you can play those on plane. So they're not edited as much. But yeah, like the Guardian of the Galaxy was fun. I like that movie, but it was his own thing. When you start to make everything that, it's just like, okay, I seen that movie already. Stop it at some point, just like. A lot of the old 80s movie actually had gravitas, not like this paper thin script of the modern era. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it wasn't just like a throwaway. Like, there was like some craft to it. People with take the time to build a scene, build a tension, and stuff like that. You got some independent movie nowadays that can kind of do that. Sometimes they're limited by their budget and stuff like that. But everything from the big studio, it's dead. I want to talk about the Riddle of Steel because we mentioned it, and because we're on the subject of Conan. It's something I find very interesting. Something I find like Conan is one of my favorite fantasy hero, because he's a guy that imposes will on the world. Like, he's not a superhero. He doesn't have any superpower and stuff like that. He's strong, but he's strong because he made himself strong in a way. Well, maybe he was born a bit stronger, like, and stuff like that, but like he got strong through hard work and to doing hard stuff, to challenging himself, to pushing himself, not sitting on his ass. And this whole riddle of steel in the and you can tell the movie is it's philosophical, the Conan movie, because it opened with the Nietzsche quote in the start. But then if you look with the Tulsa Doom, when he was young, he was obsessed with the riddle of steel. And when the father talked to Conan, he tell him about how steel is strong, and you can trust steel and stuff like that. And that's an important part of the movie. And then Tulsa Doom is obsessed with finding the riddle of steel. And then when Conan see Tulsa Doom later on in life, Tulsa Doom say, "Yeah, I was young and I was innocent, and I thought that steel was strong, but steel is nothing without the flesh that wield it. Flesh is strong, steel is weak." And then he show with telling the woman to jump to her death, which she does. But then later on in the movie, the Tulsa Doom get his head chopped. That's gonna be a spoiler. It's fucking Conan. If you haven't seen it, what the fuck you doing with your life? In the end of the movie, Conan chop off the sword of the father got broken, so steel can be broken. But then he chop off the flesh of Tulsa Doom with the broken sword. So even though the steel can be broken, the flesh can also be cut, even with broken steel. So what is the riddle of steel? Is steel strong? Is flesh stronger? It's like, I think the moral of the story is that the will is strong. You need the steel is hard and can cut, but you need the arm to wield the steel, but you need the will to swing the arm and to go through the challenge. And I think that's the story of a Conan. He get all this adversity and he doesn't give up. He imposes will in the world. And I think that's a good movie. Like when I was a lad and I saw that and I was just like, and then like, you think about it and say, man, Conan do what he wants. He wants his revenge and stuff like that. But until like he get back to it, he lived like with a lot of freedom because he just like and you see that in the story as well, and in the story, especially in the novel. And I think that's why like the Conan movie, even though like it's not faithful story, any of story from Howard, it's faithful in the spirit because of that. Because when you read the story, that's like Conan made himself king by his own hand, and then the whole stories in the writing order is big flashback, and you oftentimes say that like, oh, maybe one day I'm gonna make myself king. Like, yeah, something you consider. Maybe one day he's gonna make himself king, and we know because of the first story that was published that at some point he did it. And he doesn't say like he say I'm gonna make myself king. That's and it's always like it's kind of like a theme that come back a lot in those Conan story. He want to do something and he go ahead and he does it. And if there's like opposition and resistance, he does it anyway. You wouldn't see that in a modern movie. Like now, like I say, like people are goofy. They're good for nothing, but they're just like, oh, they fail, but then it turned to be a success because they, it's always like this thing, like fail to success and stuff like that. And it's not inspiring. It almost feels like they don't want to inspire the youth. You know what I mean? You get what I'm getting at? How are you doing, Rick Steele? I recently started reading the Hour of the Dragon. Really good so far, and I love the way it introduced Conan. That's not a Howard story, right? I think that's a. I don't. Yeah, I think that's a supplemental material that has been written after Howard. Was it? I only read the Howard story of Conan. I didn't read any of the comic book or any of the story written by other people afterward. So I'm not familiar with it. Yeah, and there's one story of Conan that I don't like. I forgot the title. It started with like this priestess in the temple that got a vision to go outside in the street, and to the first man she's gonna run into, he's the man that's gonna lead her army, and I didn't like this one because it goes against what Conan should stand for, like doing your own will and your volition. Now it put Conan into a position of like a elected by the god or by fate, kind of like a chosen one, because this priestess, she got this vision, and then she run to Conan and say, "Oh, Conan, you need to, you stranger, you need to lead my army apparently." And then he's just like thrust into that position from no doing of his own, and I think that's against the character. So that story I wasn't too much of a fan of. I think it's a miss of an award, but the rest is great. Might makes right. No making cups of latte in a Nord coffee shop. Fuck that. Yeah. Might makes right is the way of the world. We try to pretend to be civilized, and that we move past that, but it's just like we just define might differently. It's might in number, or it's might with money, but it's always like might makes right. We can see that all the time. Xoltotun was a great villain. Which one is that? Is that from the Hour of the Dragon? Yeah. Somebody else finished Hour of the Dragon, and you can tell it, like Lovecraft lurker at the threshold. Lovecraft's lurker at the threshold. I didn't read that much of Lovecraft. I read some, but I find his writing style a bit like hermetic. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about this movie because I saw it was kind of fresh in my mind, and like I don't see much movie at all lately, especially like not new movie. Often, like when I have time to, I see like I used to watch movie when I would date, but I don't date anymore. I'm done with that, so I don't really watch movie anymore. But and when I got time, okay, maybe I'm gonna watch a movie. Usually, often I'm gonna go back to something I've seen like so often, like the old Conan or Dunes Lynch. But I see what you mean. Doodle Squatch. Both story were finished by another author. Yeah, like so Lurker at the Threshold. Maybe that's why I'm not familiar with it, because somebody else finished Hour of the Dragon, and you can tell. Oh yeah, okay. Somebody else finished Hour of the Dragon, and you can tell. Okay, I get what you mean. Like Lovecraft Lurker at the Threshold. Maybe I didn't read the Lurker of the Threshold because of that. Because I also have like a omnibus of everything Lovecraft wrote, and I didn't remember this one. I think it's everything Lovecraft wrote. Might not be, but yeah, I don't watch many movies. I seen this one, it was fresh in my mind, and the reason I don't watch many movies because I find like this modern movie are just like they bore me. It's just like it's always like there's no story. It's just like a bang, 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 like a beat, 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 beat. There's always like something happening. It's always like this movie ADHD and stuff like that, and just like give some place for the movie to breathe. You know what I mean? Just like if you see like a movie like Valhalla Rising, that was a good movie. It was a good movie. It's not too old, but there's a lot of like space, and you got character and stuff like that, and I don't know, it's something interesting happening there, even though it gets a bit weird in the end, but weird doesn't bother me. But those yeah, Marvel like movie, I'm sick and tired of it. And also I'm sick and tired of like because even if you're in Valhalla Rising, which is not too old, and it's like a Viking kind of movie, you don't see like you don't see like forced diversity being pushed in, stuff like that. If you haven't seen that one, I recommend it. Valhalla Rising. It's made by the Nicola Winding Refn, the same guy that made Drive and Only God Forgives. Which Drive is all right. I got some problem with the main character being pulling the cable of my camera. Yeah, the main character being this big simp for the single mother, but Only God Forgive I really like. Um, but if you haven't seen Valhalla Rising, it's a bit less known. I would definitely recommend it. And you never see a film like Cruel nowadays. The Beast was class. Cruel I saw was as a lad, and I didn't care too much for it because that was a bit too silly for me. I didn't like all this weapon that you can throw and come back. I said that's not a thing, you know. That's But I've never been like a fan of like this big magical stuff. I always like my movie more toned down, and yeah, I wasn't a fan of Cruel. I did like the Beastmaster though, even though that's even though that's also very tacky. Maybe it's just because I don't know. I like animals. Yeah, I agree. The End of Rising didn't do that much for me, but otherwise solid flick. Yeah, there's something like a Valhalla Rising where he's basically, I don't know, in hell or something. I should rewatch it. But yeah, the ending is kind of weird when he deal with the Skyling. But yeah, it's basically a horror movie. It turns into that, but it doesn't start like that. That's the weird thing. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, guy, for showing up. Just like a short stream like that. I'll go see if Ongar goes live. He hasn't been going live lately, so I don't know what's happening with him. I hope he's doing well. Yeah. 13 Warrior, like Rob Necromantic mentioned. 13 Warrior. It was all right. I wish, like when you do historical movie, I wish they would be a little more historical. I don't like when they start like going with the goofy costume and stuff like that. And you know, when you do fantasy, it's a different thing. But 13 Warrior is supposed to be in a historical setting, even though it's a fantasy movie with those monsters and stuff like that. But well, like everybody liked the scene when all the is it George Clooney character like learned to the language. That was great. That's a great cinema movie, very kino. But I wish, like, yeah, just in the depiction of the Viking. And also it annoys me when they always depict European as gross and barbaric and unclean and dirty and stupid. It's like our ancestors weren't like that. They were fucking smart guy. They did like great thing, you know. They weren't like some kind of like dumb fucking idiot. There's always like this depiction of like I said, like the people that they make those movies, they hate your ancestor, our ancestor. I wouldn't say your because I don't know who you are in the chat, but they hate those. They hate white European. So all the ancestral hatred. So they always want, and those movies always like kind of like in a way propaganda as well. That they try to make it. They want to make you feel like you're so lucky to live in modern time and not back then. You know, if they were to make like, especially when they do medieval movie and stuff like that, if they were to make like a depict medieval life as it was, maybe people would look at that and say, you know what, maybe we didn't make a good deal with this. I don't know. That's well, you know, like I'm a reactionary and stuff like that. I think we should go back. I don't think the modern world is that great. You know, we have more comfort and stuff like that, but I don't think it's worth the. You know, we don't have a community anymore. We the family is broken. We lost so much throughout the day with those things, with the modernity and I don't believe that the medieval time was so as bad as people depicted as being. Uh, People were dummies, and they could still live happy life. And it's not true that the peasant did only work. Like the peasant had more free time than we have now because there were all those feast days where they're not supposed to work because the church recognized that they need rest. So they would work about like 150 days in a year. It was hard work, but hard work is not a bad thing. Hard work is good for the spirit, it's good for the body. So you know, I was like, I started the stream. I said I was late. I was doing some gardening. I was like cutting some trees. I cut some Stagger and sumac that I'm trying to get rid of, and I'm doing it with a scythe. I know it is. It's not that bad. I choose to do it with a scythe because I find it like it doesn't take me longer than doing it with the weed eater, like the gas power weed eater. But it's less noise. It's more tiring, but it's a good workout. It's a good core workout. So yeah, it's like hard work is not bad. It's good. It's good for the body. It's good for the soul. But yeah, they always want to depict like those ancient time as like so barbaric and so everybody was dumb and stupid and dirty. It wasn't like that. Eater of the Dead is a damn good book. Who wrote that? Eater of the Dead. It rings a bell. I don't like if you can put in chat if you somebody or if Man of War knows. I'll be interesting to maybe I'll look it up. Eater of the Dead. I don't remember. Start off more realistic, the end more fantastical, weird. 13 Warrior, yes, and Valor Rising as well. Both. I don't know which movie we're talking about, but both of them are that. They started more realistic. Well, especially like Valor Rising. Valor Rising started like pretty realistic. Yeah, the depiction is like one of the best, I would say. There's no like this those big fantastical element, even 13 Warrior, like the costume and stuff like that, like it's all over the place in time period and stuff like that. So Valor Rising, it's pretty realistic at the start, maybe a bit too muddy. The Celts were pretty civilized, yeah, and they had those road made of wood, and they had those they had a civilization. They did a bit of the human sacrifice thing, which can be which maybe that can be improved upon, but yeah, and even like the because people like talk about now the stream is going on. People talk about when the Roman would talk about barbarian. The Roman had a very strict definition of like barbarian was everybody that wasn't Roman, basically, like or wasn't like Etruscan stuff like that. Like they would call the Greek barbarian because the Greek would pursue intellectual activity that had no practical purpose, like philosophy and stuff like that, instead of just engineering. And for the Roman, that was decadent. It was like intellectual masturbation, and it was like they were barbarian because of that. If you would put like butter on your bread instead of olive oil, you're a barbarian. So they would refer to all those other people as barbarian. It doesn't mean that they were savage that didn't know anything. And you have to, when you look at the kit of like the Roman legionnaire, the gladius they had was a sword they took from the Iberic Celt in the Iberic, like what is now Spain and Portugal. So they were barbarian, but the Roman went there and they saw their sword and said, you know what, that's pretty good sword. We're gonna adapt that. The chainmail they take from I think it was from the Gaul, and a lot of the kit of the legionnaire, a lot of the thing that Rome made their own came from those barbarian, and even from the Greek and stuff like that. So those barbarian weren't like just people like living in the Stone Age, which is funny because now like they always want to depict like the native that was in North America as like, oh, those noble savage that were like those were people living in the Stone Age. But the people of Europe, like in the 3rd century BC, they weren't in the Stone Age. Like they were evolved people with society and metalwork and art and stuff like that. You look at the Scythian, look at their art that they had, like the metal work they would do, like with gold and stuff like that. It was amazing. Crafting Gamer, nice seeing you. Hello everyone. Sorry I'm late. I had some errand around this morning. Well, usually like I start those stream like around 5 past noon, and I usually then do them pretty late. I just want to talk about the D&D movie, and now we're just like evolving into talking about history and stuff like that, which is something that and how it's depicted in the movie, which is something that annoys me. I was about to wrap the stream up, but now like people are getting me going about that brings my favorite REH quote to my Robert E. Howard. Civilized men are more discourteous than savage because they know that they can be impolite without having their skull split, as a general thing. Yeah, that's a good quote. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the biggest fan of civilization. Well, like, you know, I'm this guy that live in the wood in the middle of nowhere. I kind of like remove myself from civilization. So, and now like I have to run errand this afternoon, and I said on stream Friday, I need to go to town, and I end up not going because like I already went in the week, and I don't like leaving my land too often. Depends on who you're sacrificing to. That's a thing too. The a lot of the. I'm not sure about the Celt per se, but I know that a lot of those barbarian people that were doing like a human sacrifice. Oftentimes they were doing people being sacrificed were willing to you know, they were offering themselves, or they were like a, it wasn't necessarily like something done against people's will. So, which is still a bit weird, but at least I guess if it's voluntary. Now we have like maids in Canada, like medically assisted suicide, or medically assisted. I remember what the I stand for. Suicide, death. Oh, medically assisted induced death. They don't use the term suicide. MAID. Yeah, it's now one of the leading cause of death in Canada. So who's the barbarian? Whatever. Eh? Talking about human sacrifice. Human sacrifice is more popular now than at any point in history. If you include like abortion and stuff like that, absolutely. Oh, Michael Crichton. Crichton wrote Eater of the Dead. I never read anything by him. Like there's a lot of books that missed me because, like, well, my first language is French. I wrote a lot of book in French when I was at and stuff like that. So and also we have a very different literature tradition. So avoid city at all cost, in my opinion, and especially now the city are done. Like that's we was talking about. Oh, it was on the Black Lodge game podcast the other day. They were talking. Oh, maybe we're gonna have a new. We're gonna have a new golden age of RPG if D&D fail. And I say if D&D fail, we're gonna have like it's gonna be like a new dark age in a way, because it's like if D&D is like the empire, like the Roman Empire, if you want, that cast its shadow over everybody, and now it's gonna fall. So we're gonna have like all those little kingdoms that'll be able to shine and do their own thing. So that could be great. Instead of like everybody feeling like they have to produce something for 5e, they're gonna start producing their own thing or for a different little system. So maybe we're gonna see like a rebirth. Instead of having an homogeneity, having this big 800-pound gorilla that everybody has to kind of march on its beat. Now people will be able to march on their own beat. And even though I say it's going to be kind of like a new dark age after the fall of the empire, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because it give you a lot of freedom. It gives you a lot of independence. And the dark age, like I said, weren't just people going back to eating mud. You know, it's like people didn't get like a lot of the system fail and stuff like that, a lot of the big centralization, but people had pretty decent life otherwise. And there wasn't like with the Carolingian Empire, the people were talking about like a Carolingian Renaissance, where like a lot of art was making, a lot of texts were preserved and brought back and studied. We got our alphabet from there. People say we use the Roman alphabet. We actually use the Carolingian alphabet with the small cap letter. So yeah, I welcome the new Dark Age in RPG, and I would also welcome the new Dark Age in the world. I want to see like I often say, like the fall of like the Judeo-American Empire would be the best thing that could happen for Americans and for the world in general. We need to get past that. And now it's getting very political. I should stop that there. Uh, Easy read, Crichton. Maybe I should. Sometime I'm looking for fantasy series, and I have a hard time like finding anything I like. But I'm pretty sensitive. Like people were talking about like Joe Abercrombie and stuff like that. Oh, that's pretty good apparently, and it's not woke. Then you go look at it, and one of the main characters, like this sassy black woman that is an archer, and like, oh, the gender role are not a thing in that world, and I don't like Buzz Babe. That threw me off already. So I say, yeah, that's not for me. Yeah. I think if D&D fails, which it won't, it would bring a new age of RPG, a bit like in the 90s. Yeah, I think I don't know if it won't. I'm not convinced that it will. I think it could with the new edition. Like it won't fail completely, but it could take a back seat. But that'd be great. I'd like to see like those little like a new little system and somebody else taking the center stage a bit too. That'd be fun. People might return to TTRPG after the video game market is flooded with zombie games thanks to AI. I don't like. I've stopped playing a lot of video game as well because they're so bad nowadays. Everything is so easy. I play like the FromSoft game, and sometimes I do like some video game stream. I play like fucking Mountain Blade Warband. That's a game that's like what 12 years old now, and I talk about it on stream as well. Like they made there's a new Mountain Blade Bannerlord, but it's so much worse than the original one. The original is so much more fun, so much funner. Is that a word? Funner. But yeah, modern video game, like everything is on easy mode, stuck on easy mode all the time, and they always and also like I hate when they if I want to play a game, I want to play a game. I don't want to be told the story. If I want to watch a movie, I'll watch a movie. And especially when the story is bad, the writing is bad and stuff like that, get that out of the way. You know what I mean? I'm playing a video game. That's why I like the FromSoft game, like Dark Soul. If you want to deep in the story, in the lore and stuff like that, it's there, but it doesn't get in the way. Maybe we'll have the new Wild West of RPG, a mix of both new, good, and bad one. And I'm okay with that. I want to see a thousand flower bloom. I'm not looking to have a kingdom in the RPG world. All I want is for my creation to get me a small plot of RPG land, and I'm happy. Yeah, and that'd be great if you can get a small plot of RPG land without having to pay tax to anybody, wouldn't it be? Yeah, not everybody want to be a king, but we need some king. David Jamal, I think I should take a note of that. I don't know what he did, but I'll look it up. So yeah, that's now you can see me writing with a pen. Recluse Saga, great fantasy series. I'll look those up. And if they suck, then I'll know you suck. After the fall, Max will have that blade launching sword he always wanted. Yep. No, I'm a spear guy. Yeah. An Assassin's Apprentice. Oh, I heard about this one, Assassin's Apprentice. But I heard about this one from sometime I go look at I don't know if you go to sometime like kind of like book YouTube, people talking about literature and book. Sometimes I go see there, especially like fantasy literature YouTube, and they're not the kind of people like I would trust their opinion too much. They're always like very, I don't know. I yet to see like a Chad on book YouTube. Not sure if what CDND will die, but it could be crippled. Well, it would still be around, but it could be like it could lose like the spot as the first as the it could be like lose the spot as leader. It happened in the past. It happened with Pathfinder. It happened with when they did 4E, and it happened in the 90s with White Wolf. Not a word until now. Funner. Why not? Why is it not a word? English is weird sometimes. Dark fantasy stuff or the David Jamal, I might like it. The King Beyond the Gate, Dross the Legend, Waylander. Huh. Yeah, they all fucking nerds. Fucking book Twitter, book YouTube. It's all fucking nerds. Man, you can it doesn't mean not because you're into books that doesn't mean you cannot do sports and lift some weight and stuff like that. You can do more than one thing in life. You don't have to make like one thing your niche and you only do that. It's like read books, but also go to the gym once in a while. You can even read books between your set. All right, I think I'm gonna cut that here. Thank you for joining, guy. Have a good day. I'll stream again on Wednesday at 5 past noon. So you can Eastern time, of course. So you can join me then. And until then, have a good day. Take care.